As fans of Elden Ring, I'm sure you're all very familiar with rejection.
You are maidenless. Maidenless.
But rejection is actually great, the incantation that is. If you play PvP, I'm sure you'll be familiar with all the shenanigans it has to offer, be them hilarious or frustrating. It's also surprisingly useful against some mini-bosses too. The Falling Star Beasts, for example, are particularly susceptible. Wrath of Gold does the same thing, with good damage to boot, but it's much more expensive to cast if you're just wanting to push enemies around. Rejection doesn't work on everything, namely if they're considered stationary objects, but something that it surprisingly does work on is the Walking Mausoleums. That's right, the giant stone beings throughout the land are moved just slightly by rejecting them. Poor things. So, as curious humans,
we should take Bikini Bottom and push it somewhere else!
But naturally, in all seriousness, the question has to be asked. Can the mausoleums be pushed all the way off the map, like other enemies?
That idea may just be crazy enough to get us all killed!
So I chose the Walking Mausoleum by Castle Soul and got to work. I have max mana here, and to counter the mana usage, I chose to use a Starlight Shard. The Mausoleum wandering makes it oddly difficult, so it takes patience, especially since you've got to keep dodging. But eventually, I got it to the edge of the cliff, and it started teetering over as some legs hovered over the drop. But with time, as you can see, I stopped making progress. There's an invisible wall stopping them from being fully pushed off the map. With other enemies, you circumvent this by breaking their poise before knocking them off, but I doubt that's possible here. However, that's not the end of it. I had one more idea to try before giving up. The Walking Mausoleums can actually go to sleep, where they stop wandering for about 7 to 8 minutes. All of them do this, other than the one in the consecrated snowfields that fires bombardments of sorcery. You can wait until the late night period, or pass time till the morning to activate it, though you won't have as much time then. So, I waited until the mausoleum stopped moving and tried again. It was much faster this time. I got it right to the edge, and then... it is possible. You can push the mausoleums to fall off the edge of the map. And a huge impact appears way down, almost out of sight. But don't worry, if you reload the area, they will be deactivated in their usual spawn position, so you won't lose the opportunity to duplicate a remembrance. I also did this to the mausoleum in the Weeping Peninsula, and the one in the depths too, but I'd recommend getting a friend to help if you want to try it yourself, as it takes some time. Continuing on the theme of stylish executions is Rellana's Twin Moons. If you're like me, the exorbitant stat requirements and lack of poise meant that I wasn't interested in the sorcery when I first played the DLC. Since then, however, it's been buffed for some range updates, and more importantly, some hyper armor. Hyper armor meaning some temporary poise so you don't get stunned out of the attack. It is still situational at best, but if you're looking for a new way to play and care about Elden Bling and stylish battles, since, after all, what else is there, then I think this sorcery is being slept on. It dodges both grab attacks and ground attacks. So for some bosses in particular, you can really style on them. Here are just a few examples of me trying it out. Speaking of looking great, who here has donned the pumpkin head at one point or another? These are dropped, of course, by the Mad Pumpkinhead enemies, who are apparently broken gladiators. They use this helm's pitch black inside to keep them from panicking, and the roomy interior helps to relieve pressure and claustrophobia too. However, did you know that you can induce this panic to rise up again if you agitate them with bloodshed or the humming of insects? As noted in their Spirit Ash description, if you throw a swarm pot at them, they will rampage like mad, trying to get rid of the infestation, and smash their head against the ground relentlessly. until finally they pause to listen and check they fully removed the problem. It really made me feel for them, and feel guilty for throwing the pot in the first place. Here's a trick that you could use, I guess. What do you think is the bigger threat? A host of powerful demigods bent on killing you? Or some wooden planks? Yeah, for me it was the wooden planks too. The secret area behind Mog's room in the Shunning Grounds is infamous. At the bottom, the ground breaks and you fall into an area where the three fingers are sealed away. But did you know how this ground breaking mechanic works? If we look at this example in the Caelid Divine Tower, where the ground also breaks beneath you, you can see more clearly how the drop should definitely be lethal, but the ground is programmed in a unique way. While the breakable ground can be lethal if you fall onto it, the ground beneath it can never kill you. Now, in this Divine Tower, the structure resets, which means it's always the same. But what's cool about the one in the Shunning Grounds is that if you make it all the way down safely and the ground breaks, this is a permanent change. The ground remains broken even if you reload the area. Which means, if for some reason you forgot to rest at the Grace, or just want to be more stylish on re-entry, you can go to Mog's Arena again and then drop all the way down from the top of the room. Which, I've gotta say, feels very satisfying, even empowering. A moment of redemption. Finally, this last trick relates to torches. Elden Ring has a number of stylish torches, and some of them even have special properties, namely the Sentry's Torch and the Beast Repellent Torch. The former reveals invisible enemies. It was made on Morgoth's orders to be able to identify the Black Knife assassins after Godwyn was murdered. And as you can imagine, the torch is really handy in Ordinar's Evergaol. The latter pacifies beasts. It stops them from attacking, so long as you don't get too close or attack them yourself. They focus on you menacingly, but won't make the first move. If that goes wrong and the fight does break out, you can just swap the torch out and back in to reset the effect. The effect works on lone wolves, dogs, giant dogs, as long as they don't have red eyes, boars, sheep, bears, though not room bears, rats, giant rats, basilisks, and crystal snails. But did you know that this effect works even if the torch is on your back, despite the torch not being lit? It's really useful if you don't want to change your build but still get the benefit. And since you can use your lantern at your waist, the lost light isn't really a problem. And one place in particular that I recommend using this trick is against the damn Divine Beast Dancing Lion in the Raw Ruins. If you don't know, this beast has a new elemental phase compared to the counterpart in Ballarat. They use Deathblight. But as if that wasn't bad enough, the phase transition also summons a number of basilisks to join the fight. So even with the generous space, the fight can quickly devolve if you don't manage to quickly kill the ads. But if you just put the Beast Repellent Torch on your back, you can just ignore them, and it makes the fight so much more manageable, or at least similarly chaotic to the first encounter. Now for the sponsor of today's video, Tides of Annihilation. This is a brand new... Did you hear that? Let's have a look. The title is a fantasy action-adventure game that's inspired by Arthurian legend, but it's set in modern-day London that has been broken apart by some sort of otherworldly invasion. You play as Gwendolyn, a powerful protagonist whose design emphasises elegant but deadly style as she fights hordes of enemies. But not just that, there are also enormous knights that you can see here to climb and best in a marathon battle. Perhaps I'm naturally biased here, but it's always exciting to see classic London landmarks in games, from Big Ben to Tower Bridge, from the London Eye to the British Museum. During your playthrough, you essentially collect over 10 unique knights, which you can then use for their different combat advantages as you quest in search of the Holy Grail, battling a load of bosses that are each inspired by the Knights of Arthur's Round Table. I'm sure you can see a number of inspirations from the footage, God of War, Shadow of the Colossus, and so on. And with the team's wide pool of veterans, you can be sure that the game is in good hands. If you like what you see, go wishlist the game now on Steam, so you're notified when it releases for PC and consoles. If you made it this far, consider supporting the channel and get early access to upcoming releases, feature your own theories on the channel, or even get access to new Lore Before Bed videos ad-free for less than $1. Your support makes content like this possible, so thank you.